Part of the question I think of that the theme is a little bit of a different length every week. This is Quest the Adventure Game Podcast. Is I could ostensibly just take the MP3 file and chop it down, and so that way it is the same length every week. But I like I like having the full however long this sound file is, however long this song is, and letting it run and killing it, when it feels right.
No, I think, and also, like I don't like all these people out there with their podcast apps
That's right.
who are going to hit
That's
like
right.
skip forward 30 seconds.
That's right.
Like sometimes I want them to like skip forward right into one of our wacky bits and then
That's
be like,
right.
oh no, I messed up. Now they're doing the skip backwards, but it's a
Oh,
10-second skip, whereas the skip forward is 30 seconds. And they can't figure out how to land perfectly. Like I don't want it to be easy. Like I know exactly how many skips it takes to get through this theme song of my brother and me. And I take advantage of that every single time. I don't want people doing that to us.
wow, it's been so long since I've been a regular listener of my brother and me.
Better than ever.
I almost got rid of like I almost was like uh yeah, I haven't listened to it since they replaced the theme song
Oh
because
wow.
Bean Dad was the original theme song
How's
composer.
Bean Dad doing these days?
I think he's still out there. I think
He's
he's
still out there?
still playing mind games with beans. I think that was one of the first like meltdowns of 2020. I think that was a 2020 thing.
I feel like it was. I feel like we were already like sheltered in place when Bean
It
Dad
was
came
a
along.
shelter that we were all at home. We were all online. We were all on Twitter, and we saw this man post this preposterously long thread about about we listen. We don't need to go
We
through all
can't.
this. That was 5 years ago.
This isn't Quest the Bean Dad podcast.
Yeah, if you want to
This is
listen to that, you could listen to his podcast, which he has with Ken Jennings.
yeah.
Now, this is the adventure game podcast.
For podcasts and adventures. That's right.
Oh,
And
good lord!
aren't you glad to be here, Ben?
I'm always glad. I'm glad every day I open up my eyes and I stare at the cracks in the ceiling. Not for too much longer, in the cracks of the ceiling of my apartment bedroom. This is true. There are uh I'm looking at them now. There are multiple cracks in the ceiling of my bedroom. And once the apartment handyman was here and he was fixing something in my bathroom, and I said, "Hey, while you're here, can you take a look at these cracks in the ceiling over my bedroom?" And he takes a look, and I go, "Is that bad, or are those just the normal type of cracks
Yeah,
in
the
the
good kind
ceiling?"
of cracks in an edifice.
And I'm like, "Is this a problem?" And he just shrugged at me.
Mm.
But I've been here, I've made it, and I'm here for a week and a couple more days. By the time this comes out, it will be I move out of here, provided everything is fine. I move out of here the day this should come out.
No, I mean, this is something I've been thinking about a lot too,
You've
because,
been thinking about the cracks in the ceiling of my
y-
apartment?
yeah, absolutely. Well, not so much that, but, just to give listeners a little behind the scenes peek here, Ben handles a lot of the housekeeping end and the financials of this podcast. And
I'm doing all sorts of crimes.
I find it a little concerning that we've been doing this podcast for 20 odd episodes at this point, and Ben is moving into a nice new place,
Mhm.
and I haven't seen a dime out of this yet.
That's right. I'm and it's I built it all with Quest money too. And that's what
It's
I told.
also, yeah, it's weird that you're wearing like a sequin tuxedo when we record now. Like, I just feel like,
And
I
these
don't
are
know.
each of these sequins is a is a pearl.
It's a Swarovski crystal.
Yeah, it's alternative Swarovski crystals. I don't know if that's how that's pronounced.
I don't either. I just said it for the first time ever and regretted it.
When you said that, I was like, "Huh, that's how that's said." That's
Why
interesting.
not? Why not? That's never a good sign when your first reaction to someone's pronunciation of a word is interesting. That doesn't fill me with confidence.
Well, you know what does fill me with confidence?
What?
Thank you. It's as sure as the sun rises every day, it's knowing what you've been playing.
Wow. So what have I been playing? That's a great question.
What a non-sweaty transition.
No, that was smooth. That was smooth. That was good.
Smooth and clear.
Smooth and easy, just like we like to keep it here at Quest, the adventure game podcast. Ben, I went this weekend to a local barcade. Yeah, by the name of Dave & Buster's. It's this great local place that we have here. First of all, fantastic food, let me tell you. But I was there for the games, and what I played, and it's got me really thinking. And I want to pose a question to you in just a moment.
All right.
I played Giant Galaga.
You know what? I knew when you were saying this. I was like,
Yeah.
I bet he played Giant Galaga.
And I also
think
played
Giant Galaga looks pretty cool.
Yeah. I also played Giant Pac-Man.
It's the same screen, right?
Same
it
thing.
alternates.
Yeah. And I played Giant Space Invaders, which was a different
Is it all the same
unit.
screen? Were there three?
That's a different unit. It's Galaga Pac-Man, I think, were combined, and then Space Invaders was on its own.
And
But-
was it a very straightforward, like white, like just like your classic, or like classic Space Invaders, like white or green?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No. This isn't like an upgraded, souped up kind of.
It's just that it's on a big screen. Can you describe what that looks like for
like
anyone that
a
hasn't
giant dot
seen it?
matrixy kind of screen? Like it's just like. I mean,
Like
it
the
doesn't.
lights in it are enormous. Like
Yeah.
it's not just that. It's not like seeing like a big TV screen.
No, it's like light bulbs on a wall. That light. It's almost like Christmas bulb size lights that are lighting up to form your game. I don't love the giant games.
I've never played them. I've always given them the look of, oh, that looks pretty cool, and then never played them. Like whenever I've been in like a Dave and Buster's type scenario or like a movie theater that has those.
I mean, they're fine. They're better than what other kind of horrible games live in a Dave and Buster's nowadays. I mean,
They have like a Fruit Ninja. Did they have a Fruit Ninja over
of
there?
course they have a Fruit Ninja. I mean, Fruit Ninja's a great game, but
anyway, so you said you had a question.
Yeah. If you were going to make a giant video game, what would you choose?
And let's limit this to arcades.
Arcade
right?
games, yeah. Let's play honest. Like if you had to choose an arcade game to be giant, what would it be? Like these things we say giant,
Well,
they're like
you know what
a
would
story tall, right? Like 10 feet tall. You know.
You know what would be fun? I think is Giant Joust, because then you have that 2 players.
Yeah.
Joust would be a lot of fun to have on the giant screen. And I'm also trying to think, because the game has to be kind of like lower resolution. So you're not gonna have like, NASCAR, like the or Daytona, the Sega Daytona from 1990, whatever. I also, like, personally, I love Robotron, so Robotron would be, I think, a good one. I love Berserk.
Ooh.
Berserk would be a fun one. I think I would appreciate one of those weird Pac-Man knockoffs, like Ladybug or something like that.
Mappy.
Mappy's fun. Mappy's not like a Pac-Man knockoff.
Oh, I thought that was a maze game. That was a maze.
It is a maze game, yeah. I also don't think of it as a knockoff because that's also Namco, right?
That's right. That's right.
So it's like I don't think of it because it's from the family.
Yeah. I don't know if we're jumping ahead like too far into the generation, but like I can imagine a giant Street Fighter 2 could be fun. Like,
see, that's a little like because that is a little higher res.
Too high resolution. I don't think you can pull it off. No,
you'd have to like squint.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that making Defender giant would make it better, but I like Defender.
Yeah, Defender of all the like Eugene Jarvis arcade games, Eugene Jarvis being an arcade designer that did Defender, he did Smash TV, he also did the aforementioned Robotron. He's done some really, really wonderful games. You can look them up. Defender is the one that doesn't do much for me because I think it's too hard. Defender, by the way, that's the one where like you're a little spaceship and it's horizontal and you can go both directions. Like it's kind of in there like UFOs picking up people, right? Like at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you have like a little map that shows like where the UFOs are. I don't know, Defender, maybe it's like, I just always thought it was like, I've never had a good time playing Defender. Maybe I just think it's too hard.
I think there's already Giant Missile Command, and that's honestly one that works pretty well.
Missile Command would be good.
Oh wait, I've got it, man, I've got it. Centipede. Giant Centipede
would also be good.
Yeah. Imagine how that would look. Giant,
Atari.
like, yeah, just like moving. Yeah. Oh man, Centipede could be good.
Yeah, Centipede would be good. I think like all the Atari classics, because these are like the ones that are in production, those are Namco games. As is Space Invaders is a Namco, right? I think so.
I'm not sure.
But Centipede would be a good one. Like of the Atari catalog, of the Atari classics, it would also be pretty well. Well, here's the thing. I said Asteroids, but that's Vector. That's vector graphics. And so that would, I don't know if that would work as well with this
that's a good
type
question.
of like the big kind of dot matrix screen. Like I don't think the vector graphic, because I was going to say the Atari Star Wars game, like the Trench Run, the vector Trench Run game. Like that game's really cool and it would be fun. I think vector graphics are gorgeous. Like,
I do too. They hold up so beautifully.
Yeah, like I was playing Tempest. I was playing Tempest on a cabinet at an arcade recently, and I was like, man, this game is beautiful. Yeah. I don't know.
I think Joust was a good pick. Joust was really
Joust.
good. I think that I did not think of Joust.
I'm always thinking about Joust.
You are. I mean, well, you are like a big ostrich guy. Like, that's, I mean, yeah, you've always enjoyed
I am half ostrich.
Yeah, we don't talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But it is a simple fact of this podcast that is hosted by a half ostrich man, an ostrich tar.
Yeah.
It's not the half you think.
No, it's
just
not.
for the yeah.
Now, Jess, is there any other game that you would embiggen?
No, I think I mean I would make a lot of games smaller. That would be like, how about Dragon's Lair? But now it's just like 2 inches by 1 inch.
Yeah.
It's just like so small you can't see anything.
Great.
That'd be my other direction. I'd go, Ben, what have you been playing?
So I've been playing. I'm gonna take a turn here. I've been playing on Puzzmo. Have you heard of Puzzmo?
No.
So Puzzmo is a website that does your daily your daily newspaper puzzles. So they like their big thing that I'll do is they have a crossword, but then now it's done by the folks, and this is in here. They did, if you're familiar with it, I wasn't, Spell Tower and Really Bad Chess. Neither of which I'm good at. I'm especially bad at Really Bad Chess. Really Bad Chess is a chess like can you beat a game of chess against an AI where you have like it's not randomized. It's every day there's a different setup, but you have a completely different setup of like the one I'm looking at for today. The first row is 7 knights and 1 bishop.
Oh man, I like the sound of that. That's classic chess.
But
my daughter beat me at giant chess recently. Speaking of giant games,
Jess, is it just do you just like giant games?
I like feeling small. As like
but you say that, but I just played giant chess. I just played giant Space Invaders.
But no, I mean when I'm playing something giant, I feel comparatively small. So like if I'm standing beside a chess piece that's like 3 feet tall,
right?
I feel like I'm a wee tiny man on a full-size chessboard. But please continue.
But Puzzmo, the ones that I'll play every day is I like their crossword. They have one called Flip Art, which bafflingly is this like rotating like tile game that I enjoy. Which is strange as a noted mosaicator. It's not a mosaic. Everything, you don't slide things around. They only pivot from a central point. So that makes it a lot easier. Then there's one Type Shift, which is kind of a word scramble, but each like the first letter, the second letter, the third letter, the fourth letter, and the fifth letter only slide up and down, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that you have like 26 letters, you have the 4 that slide up and down in the first letter and the 4 that slide up and down the second letter.
Yeah.
I enjoy their crossword. It is kind of frustrating and fun to make fun of because it is kind of written to be cool and hip. And so like, they'll like one of the answers a couple days ago was Brat Summer. So, they're with it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember Brat Summer.
Yeah, remember? Anyway, so like they do that kind of thing. But it's an enjoyable crossword, and they have a very fun like poker themed puzzle called the Pile of Poker. I very much enjoy. So check it out, Puzzmo. They have a free version and a paid version, and I have a paid version. So I get all the Puzzmos every day, every single Puzzmo.
Yeah. And as a QuestQuest listener, just enter the code QuestQuest 2025 podcast discount code _ 20% off. Now I'm not sure if that's a percent sign or if you spell out 20%, or if you even spell out the number. But try all of those, and one of them will give you the discount you're looking for.
All right. Well, Jess, I have another segment today. I have an email.
I like how this song is kind of like celebration of life type music.
Initially...
That's a little jazzier than that. Now, I hope they play music like this at my funeral.
Yeah, I hope your funeral is played entirely by a Weather Channel playlist.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I do have you in my will as the executor of my estate, so you'll be in charge of planning my funeral. So keep this in mind.
So this is an email that comes to us. It reads, in the latest posted episode, and we received this email on February 18th. So a couple weeks ago, y'all claimed that you wouldn't classify Papers, Please as an adventure game. And while I agree with that, I'm curious what bounds you have around what is considered an adventure game. Is Goblins, and I'll note, Goblins was spelled correctly, we have all 3 I's. Is Goblins an adventure game? Are the later Telltale Games titles adventure games? That's a sentence. Are the later Telltale Games titles adventure games? Elucidate us. Kevin, aka WilcoWeb, aka the guy that did the art, the show art. And that this is a request quest. We're going to talk about that. This
All right.
this whole podcast. Someone sent us an email and then we talk about it. That's what this whole podcast is.
That's right.
We're called the Email Knots.
It's not a great name. We're workshopping it. So
welcome to the Email Knots.
yeah,
we take an email and we talk about it.
that's right. Just two guys talking about an email on a podcast. Where else are you going to get that?
I get emails from like here's an email that like my personal to my personal email where the sender is saggy chin.
Okay.
Another one here is never drink alcohol question mark.
Mm-hmm.
I get all sorts of wonderful emails.
So is Saggy Chin offering a solution to Saggy Chin?
Yeah, it says saggy chin, and then the subject is how to make your double chin in quotes vanish end quotes, and then parentheses DIY trick.
Oh,
And then the little Gmail preview is double chin does not all caps mean you're fat. Which all right, thank you.
there you go. That's why I've been
Unsubscribe.
on like a 300-day mewing streak, to try to really tighten that look up. That's what all the kids are doing nowadays.
Yeah. All right. Well, but let's get to this email here from Kevin, aka WilcoWeb.
What is a
Yeah.
ding dang adventure game?
Yeah.
That's the question before us, right? And honestly, I'm kind of surprised we didn't do this sooner. I feel like we started off this podcast way back in episode 1. Please don't go back and listen to episode 1.
That's the
If
one
I
that
could,
has been most listened to.
I know it should be the one that is not listened to at all.
Mm. I
We
think it's a perfectly fine, but yes,
It's not
anyway.
our best work. I mean, odds are this will be our best work because it's our most recent one.
Yeah.
We're off
Newer
to a
is
hot start.
always better.
That's right. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, we talked about in the first episode how we play adventure games and establish sort of who we are as adventure game players. But this question has come up a few times. Most recently, as Kevin mentioned when we talked about Papers, Please, you and I both sort of pondered for a second and said we were pretty comfortable saying it wasn't an adventure game. But certainly we've had some other, I would argue, edge cases that both of us at a gut level felt like, yeah, that one is an adventure game.
And to keep this podcast interesting, I'm just gonna randomly scream out game titles at Jess and force him to classify them. Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail.
Not an adventure game.
Okay, very good.
Correct. But why? Why do I know that? How do I know that?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want to get down to today. I know I'm correct, and don't at me, and don't at Ben.
Yeah.
Do email us and
Yeah,
do
send
rate
us
and
an
review us.
email and review us, and then we'll cover it on Email Knots.
Yeah, but don't add us. But no, figure out what exactly the core traits of this genre are. I think is something worth working through, because I know that, like, I mean, gosh, if you click on adventure as a genre on Steam or GOG or any platform like that, the sort of stuff that's going to pop up, that some of which
Going to
fits
GOG
into, I think, like
right now.
our working definition of adventure game, and then games that are just like wildly off. Like Far Cry, in my mind, is not an adventure game. The Far Cry series, but
all right, so I'm gonna read off here. So now this is GOG under adventure games. So let's see how far we get to before we get to something that would be that we would classify as an adventure game. Number 1, Kingdom Come Deliverance. No.
not an adventure game.
AIM, Artificial Intelligence Machine. I don't know this game, but it looks like it's a flight simulator. So no.
Gotcha.
Tomb Raider 1 through 3.
No, not so far.
Skyrim,
No, that sounds like an RPG, decidedly.
Morrowind,
That sounds a lot like Skyrim.
Oblivion,
Well, that sounds a lot like Morrowind.
Silent Hill 4, The Room,
Hmm. I'm going to say not an adventure game.
Control. Man, we're getting
Getting warmer, but still not quite there.
Tomb Raider Game of the Year edition.
No, no matter how many awards you heap onto it, I'm not going to say this is an adventure game.
So I'm going to save us all the time. We get each row has 3 games, and so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows until we get Beyond a Steel Sky, which I would say is probably what we would consider an adventure game. And then you don't have something else again for a little while until you hit Blade Runner.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking right now at Steam and looking at their adventure game page. And I mean, the story there is very similar. I mean, like the kinds of games that are popping up in their adventure section are things like Spider-Man 2. Again, Tomb Raider games, Far Cry 5, Far Cry 6. It's
Now,
yeah, a bunch of games that I wouldn't personally consider adventure. Let's see what else is on
now,
here.
now on Steam, they also have point and click adventures,
That's
which
right.
you would think would be more in that, but I'm looking at this and it's also kind of like we have Do No Harm, which is a game I do not know, so maybe it is. Maybe this is a PNC. A Slay the Princess, the Pristine Cut. I've never heard of this game, but it's a psychological horror game, so probably not going to play this.
Mhm.
Needy Streamer Overload, which looks like a visual novel. Uh, we've got Alex Hill : Whispers at White Oak Inn. This looks like an adventure game of some flavor. And The Root Trees Are Dead, which I've heard is very good.
Yes.
But I don't
Heard
know
only
anything
good things
about it.
about.
I just know that it's very good.
Yeah. But I'm going to say, like, if Steam is saying
Remember
the
this is
ninth
my
best
wish list.
selling adventure game on their platform right now is Grand Theft Auto 5, that
Hmm.
would suggest that this adventure game genre is a little tough to pin down, right? I mean, certainly these stores don't quite have it. I mean, it's maybe I think a lot of us, especially that are coming from more of this graphic adventure point and click tradition, et cetera, we know one of these when we see them, but clearly as like a hobby and a medium, there's not a really firmly established definition of just what the adventure genre seems to be,
And
and we're going to fix that today, Ben.
yeah, and truly create an all-encompassing definition that everyone will agree on, and they'll all pat our backs and say, "Good job, you did it. You solved the game. Congratulations, you did it."
I
And
guess what I'm looking forward to
yeah.
most is seeing the first time, like I'm reading a book and this episode is cited for
Mm.
definitively defining adventure games. Like that's going to be really gratifying, I think, when this becomes just what people look to.
So,
This
all right.
episode.
So what is it, Jess? Go ahead. What makes something uh
Okay.
yeah.
I have a
What sort
list.
of stuff do you have there
You
on
know, I
that
like
list?
lists. I have a list of 4 or 5 things I'm going to propose here, somewhere in this neighborhood, um, of what I think defines adventure games as we talk about them here on Quest, the adventure game podcast.
And in the spirit of intellectual inquiry, I'm going to attack it so we can
Yes,
make it the perfect.
debate me, bro. I
Yeah,
guess is what I'm.
this is a true debate me bro
Yeah,
scenario.
yeah. No, adventure gamer destroyed. That's in all caps
Yeah,
by fellow adventure gamer while
right.
defining adventure games.
All right. So let's hear it, Jess.
Okay,
Go
number
for it.
one, narrative driven gameplay. Story is central. progress is defined at some level by experiencing and advancing a plot. I think that's a big one for what I consider to be an adventure. It's not exclusive to adventure games,
Yeah.
but I think if you don't have that, you're not an adventure game. None of these are necessarily exclusive categories. It's all of them together, I think,
So
that are going to
is
make this work.
Baldur's Gate 3 an adventure game?
It is a narrative story, but it's not going to meet some of these later
Okay.
criteria
All right,
that
good.
I
I'm
established.
excited to hear these other ones, but
Okay.
I'm trying to think of ways. So I'm trying to think of an example of what I would classify as an adventure game without that sort of central narrative, like what you're saying there. And maybe offhand, and we didn't share notes before this, so I couldn't, but I can't think of a good example. And remember, if you think of one at home, you can send us an email at questquestpodcast@gmail.com.
Mhm.
All
Yeah, I
right, that
mean,
that sounds pretty good to me.
okay. So that's my first one. We can kind of come back and then start talking edge cases with all of these because I
Yeah.
think once we get them all together, we'll start to maybe be able to nail this down a little bit. So, first, narrative driven gameplay. Second, and here's where I think we rule out mostly Baldur's Gate and the like. Second, puzzle solving as the primary mechanic. Um,
Puzzle solving as the primary mechanic. All right, then is uh is Firewatch an adventure game?
oh, now this is interesting. Now there's some.
Firewatch doesn't really like Firewatch or Gone Home or Tacoma.
Okay.
Would you classify those games as adventure games?
I will say yes, which maybe again, it, how low do you lower the bar of what constitutes a puzzle? I guess and maybe at that point, this second one is an iffy one. Maybe this one. Now that you say that, it's like, yeah. I mean, does Firewatch have puzzles? I mean, is this is a locked box? Go get the key for it and bring it back. A puzzle, which I guess that, as I recall, Firewatch, that's like the level of a lot of this. More of it is the
You're not
quote
really
unquote walking
solving
simulator. Yeah, you
you're
aren't
not really
solving so
solving
much.
anything.
Yeah, so maybe that one's iffy. I mean, obviously, you take a game like Myst, environmental puzzles, it's everywhere. Zork is puzzles.
Mhm.
Inventory management type games like you see a lot of LucasArts and Sierra. That's puzzles. But I hadn't really thought about these walking sims. I mean, even I would say there's mild puzzle solving in most Telltale games, and a game like Life is Strange. But those aren't exactly walking simulators either. Yeah, if you go to the full I mean, is there a puzzle in Gone Home?
No, it's been a very long time since I've played
Mm-hmm.
Gone Home, but like I think there's like one or two things that you do, but it's mostly like, and again, I haven't played this. Should I type in what happens if you type in Gone Home walkthrough? Walkthrough
Yeah, it just
Gone
says
Home. I
walk
mean, it
through.
might
It just walk through the house.
yeah, like it might be like finding all of the stuff.
Yeah, like 100%ing it might have.
Oh, there's like a use the combination on the locker and grab the key for the basement. That's right. Like there's stuff that's gated. I will note that the walkthrough for this, which is the walkthrough, like can be contained entirely on my computer screen. You've arrived at the front of the house. Open the little cabinet on the left side of the porch and find the key underneath the duck. Use the key to open the door. I'm pretty sure it tells you where the key is. If I'm
Puzzle solved.
yeah. But anyway,
So,
yeah. Like so, like, and there are other games that exist within the genre of walking simulator that we
mhm.
haven't mentioned. Um, but yeah, that
Mm,
would you consider that like Firewatch? Because I think Firewatch is an adventure game.
absolutely. I would agree 100%. And maybe, let me give you my third trait that I came up with. And maybe what we're actually dealing with here is some sort of uh, possible continuum at some level. So let me give you my third idea. So we have narrative driven gameplay, puzzle solving is the primary mechanic. My third one is going to be exploration and interaction. that part of the way you progress in the game is by exploring environments, examining objects, talking to characters, interacting with the world. So that sense of discovery, I think, is a big part of it. Which that's where the walking simulators tend to do pretty well. Is the idea of you are discovering a world as you play these things. You know, maybe it's more of a matter of, you know, there's sort of a continuum between a game where it's largely about walking around and experiencing an environment, all the way up to games where it's all about sort of solving puzzles within that environment. But no, I mean it's a little tough. I'm now doubting everything I came into this believing.
Now, so in the email, it was asked, "Does Goblins count as an adventure game?" And I think that is an interesting question. For now, have you played Goblins? I'll describe what Goblins is. But
No,
have
I'm
you
familiar with Goblins, but I've never played it
never
myself.
played Goblins?
I
How
think it's actually
interesting.
pronounced goblins
Yeah.
for all three eyes.
Goblins is a series of games published by Sierra, but created by Cocktail Vision, one of the companies that I believe Sierra owned.
Mm-hmm. That they acquired them in that big buy up.
And Goblins is a uh puzzle forward game where you control, in the first game, 3 goblins, in the second game 2, in the third game 1. Uh Goblins that have like, they each have kind of their own set of skills. And each screen that the goblins are on, and I believe just in Goblins 1 it's single screens, and then in the later Goblins, like, you'll be in like a set piece that might be 2 or 3 screens before you move on to the next set. Like, so you have a set of puzzles to solve, whatever the barrier, or whatever MacGuffin you need to get on that screen, while using these 3 goblins. And I believe that they can have, certainly in the later ones, they can have a inventory, and they're very quirky, silly games. And there's, like, I wonder, would I do I classify them as adventure games because they were published by Sierra? And that's why, like, just in because reflexively there's the question, well, of course they're adventure games. They're adventure games. But let's working through your rubric here. So, what was the first? Have we gone through all of them, by the way?
No, we
Oh, there's
have
more. Okay. All right.
there's
Well,
more. There,
but of these, the 3 that we've gone through,
yeah,
let's
narrative
just
driven gameplay. Does it? Is it about advancing a story?
kind of,
Yeah.
like, it
As the
has a
box art says, the
narrative.
king is turned into a raving, drooling lunatic.
Yeah, like, there is a narrative, but it's not really what, like, what it is that
Mhm,
you're going to be on a screen, or a collection of a couple
mhm,
screens, where you have like a couple puzzles you have to solve.
mhm,
And there is a narrative, but it's not like you're really, and as the series goes, you engage more with the plot in each game,
mhm.
if I recall correctly. But so, like,
Yeah, I guess the question is like,
there's a
does the
plot, but
narrative?
it's just window
Yeah.
dressing to get you these puzzles. Like, is Puzzle Agent an adventure game?
Oh, you know, I've never played Puzzle Agent.
Or like Professor Layton, which Puzzle
Yeah, that's a
Agent
good
is
question.
a knockoff of.
I guess for me to think, like, I think in my head when I was thinking about this is the idea that, you know, in some games, the narrative takes a back seat to the mechanics. And in my mind, in an adventure game, the narrative at some level is always in the front seat. And I wonder then in that thinking, like, I look at goblins and I think, well, they're puzzles and there's a loose narrative, but it feels like that puzzle solving mechanic is really at the forefront with the narrative
The
elements really pushed to the back.
the puzzles are driving the car.
That's right.
Is The Witness an adventure game?
I don't know The Witness.
The Witness is the game made by completely normal man Jonathan Blow, the creator of Braid, and it is you wander around a mist-like island and solve puzzles that are all within this very specific like kind of puzzle style.
Uh-huh.
It does
I'm
not
looking
like
at
it kind of has
screenshots.
a narrative, but it doesn't really.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
I
I
think for
wouldn't
me,
call
the
it. I would say
yeah.
that's more of like
Mhm.
a puzzle game with this with kind of a wraparound, but maybe I'm just kind of being a dick towards
I mean,
uh
that's the other thing. It's like games I like are obviously adventure games,
yeah.
and games I don't care for, I have to look at with a little bit more scrutiny.
Because Goblins on the continuum, I would say Goblins is an adventure game. It's just more on the side of puzzles. I would say Myst is an adventure game and it's more on the side of puzzles. Obviously, the
Mhm.
Myst games get more narrative heavy as they go as well, but like I would say like Goblins is a adventure game.
Okay. I like this. Okay. So let me hit you with maybe, I think what I'm going to call here maybe my last criterion. We'll see what we think of this one.
Okay. Okay.
Limited action elements. Not necessarily missing altogether, but things that require fast reflexes again are going to be secondary to things like narrative and puzzle solving. They may be in there. Some games have a lot of action elements. You take like a Quest for Glory where combat is an
Mhm.
important part of what's happening, but already it's the RPG hybrid. So it's kind of its own little world to
Right.
begin with. But something like Space Quest, which consistently has arcade sequences throughout, those are
Does
never the main focus. They're
here's
still rare compared to the rest of it.
Is there a single game arcade sequence that you like?
Ah, I mean, I'm clouded by my sort of love of Space Quest in that I like Astro Chicken.
Which is an absolutely batshit opinion to me.
I'm just so good at it, I can't help but like it. I mean,
Yeah,
you've seen me. I'm like a savant
right.
when it comes to
I
Astro
think
Chicken.
one of the things that kills me about Astro Chicken is that it uses the same SEI zero movement, like that. It's not that you hold up and
Yes,
hold
which
down.
seems
It's
super
that you,
intuitive to hold down when you see the way the game plays. Yeah, I mean,
right, because it's an arcade game, so you assume
yeah,
that the Astro Chicken, it's not like as a like because in SEI zero games, you move forward by tapping the direction once, and then you stop moving by hitting the direction a second time. And
right.
once you get used to that, like, and that is in controlling your character around the screen. Once you get used to that, that's fine. It's not like I remember the first time I played an SEI zero game, and I was just like holding the arrow, and that's true of AGI as well. Um, and like I got it, but for whatever reason my brain absolutely rejects that for playing Astro Chicken, which uses that same mechanic
Well, especially when
for
like
it,
an
but it's an
Astro Chick,
arcade game.
you want to keep the bird's wings flapping,
Yeah.
which seems like holding it down would be what keeps them flappy, and letting go of it would cause them to cease flapping. Yeah, I mean, it's odd, but I love it in a weird way. I mean, I again, if we want to think like Quest for Glory, I love the combat there in most of those games, especially one and two. I think that like Dag Nabbit, like the dagger throwing
Oh,
sequence in the first.
I do
Yeah.
love Dag Nabbit.
Yeah, I mean, those are good. I think of a game like, but then I think of like, ugh, like Full Throttle. I hate
I
the
remember watching you
like
stream that and having so much
motorcycle combat
difficulty with
sequence.
the
Like, that's
combat
not,
and the the demolition derby sequence towards
Yeah,
the
no, I
end.
don't care for those. Like that's not me. Yeah, but I feel like this is a big one. Like there may be action elements, but they're limited. I mean, this is, I think at some level, the Zelda series is a game that frequently gets thrown around as an adventure game in some circles.
No.
And it has, narrative, it has puzzle solving, it has exploration and interaction with the world, but ultimately, the story and some of those other things take a back seat to the fact that you're constantly in action, you're in
Yeah.
combat, there's real-time reflex based stuff, there's puzzles, explorations, and storytelling, but the action is there too. I mean, it's probably more accurately referred to as an action adventure game, right? That's the genre we kind of have that sucks in those things that aren't quite RPGs fully, but clearly aren't narrative adventures either.
Now, do you think, going back to the email, would you say that the later Telltale game titles are adventure games? Because those do not generally have puzzles. They might have a puzzle in the sense that Gone Home has a puzzle where it's like pick up the key to unlock a door. But it's not, like you're not going to play one of those games and really be like,
They're not
you
built
don't
to
have a
get stumped in.
notepad. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a good question. Yeah, I mean, I'm playing Life is Strange Double Exposure right now,
Hmm.
and I mean, there are puzzles there, and they're pretty simple. I mean, the fact that I'm breezing through them should tell you the difficulty level we're dealing with,
What's
which is just
I haven't been watching these streams. What is one of the puzzles in Double Exposure?
well, if I can give like a slight spoiler, in Double Exposure, Max gains the ability to slide between two versions of reality. And
Oh,
that
she's a
becomes
slider.
she's the classic slider.
Yeah.
This ends up being a puzzle mechanic for a lot of the game. So it's
Hmm.
like if you are walking up a path and a tree has fallen in front of your way and you can't go forward, like sliding
I
over to
guess
the
you
other
just quit the
reality,
game.
you just give up. It's like, oh well, I
You
really
just
wanted to see
go,
where this path went.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like there was one bit where she's like a stealth section where she's sneaking around a lab
Oh, they
and
kept those in that too, huh?
yeah, there you go.
Ugh.
So you're doing things like slipping from one reality to another to bring back items you need to complete this segment and to set up distractions in the other reality to bleed the
That sounds
it's
like action to me. Are you sure this isn't an
no,
action
I mean it's all
adventure in
still
the
very
vein of
like, grab
Zelda?
an it's still grab an inventory item and put it somewhere. I
Uh-huh.
mean, it is very much. I mean, it's a low bar, but even that is more puzzly than some of the later Telltale games. Now, then I guess the question is, it's like, yeah, I mean, you're playing, say, Telltale's Batman, a game that both of us have professed a lot of
Affection.
admiration and affection for.
Yeah.
You're there and you get to a crime scene, you click on some examine things, and it's kind of puzzly, but at the end of the day, most of it's like, well, you just eventually click every hotspot and you're done.
Yep.
But then a lot of those games, I mean, is a QTE, a quick time event,
Mhm.
is that ultimately more of an action mechanic at that point, which is what a lot of those later Telltale games turn into swipe left,
Yeah.
tap you kind of stuff,
Right.
which I'm not sure. As I've gone through this list, Ben, you have devil's advocated me
Yeah.
to the point that I don't know what I believe anymore.
Yeah. Left is right, up is down, right is wrong.
Hmm.
Now, yeah, I don't know, like I to me the the key is the most important thing mm, is that narrative focus.
Yeah, I think that's the big one.
And I think everything else is kind of subservient to that.
Hmm.
And then you say like, well, what about Baldur's Gate 3 or any of the Baldur's Gates, like 4 or 5? And the uh, but the narrative in those like uh the gameplay is I'm working this out. This is because narrative is number one, absolutely. But I
Mhm.
would also still say that Goblins is an adventure game. So I think it would be like that you have like a hierarchy
Okay.
of stuff. And that like number 1 is that you're in a world that you explore that has a narrative or that you're exploring it. So this gives it space for like something like Mist.
Okay. And for the
Uh
walking simulators, they
yeah,
now fit in that hierarchy.
right. Now, then you say, all right, well, what about a game like Outer Wilds, which
Ah.
is this big kind of puzzly. And this is actually, I don't know what the right answer to this is, and I would, if anyone uh, would disagree. There's Outer Wilds, not to be mistaken for Outer Worlds, the Obsidian RPG. Outer Wilds is this game where you are exploring this small solar system in like a little spaceship, and it's in a like recursive time loop that always ends with the sun going supernova and it's over. And the game is you exploring this uh this small solar system and going to each of the planets and kind of putting together what's going on. And uh
Interesting. I mean, that's a strong element of narrative and exploration.
so but then where I get bumped from saying, well, this is an adventure game is uh is that a lot of it is about uh like your movement. It is like flying the spaceship around and gravity and being in like a spacesuit and flying around certain spots. And there are kind of puzzly stuff, and like the entire world is a puzzle itself. Like
Yeah.
more you learn about it, the more you learn about like where to go next and what you should do, and you learn little shortcuts and stuff like that. But I think that there is such an emphasis on how you move in the space, and that it is because you can kill yourself by flying the spaceship incorrectly constantly, which is
Hmm.
hilarious. Uh, the the kind of that action aspect does take me out of that. So you could say like something like there's The Longest Journey Dreamfall, which is the sequel. Well, it's not really a sequel. It's kind of a like another story in that universe.
Yeah.
And that was made with consoles in mind. It's 3D, it has stealth sections, it has little action segments, but primarily it is that you walk around and you talk to people and you solve light puzzles. I would call that an adventure game because the exploration and the like the gameplay action is generally not about like isn't is more about like kind of puzzle solving and exploration and like discussion. And you could say in Outer Wilds it's about exploration too, but it's like that's so much about like kind of the movement in a 3D space, which feels
Gotcha.
more actiony.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I do think thinking about this as a hierarchy is not a bad way to start, and I do think narrative in a lot of ways is at the center of it, and then maybe you know maybe it's less about puzzles, and maybe it's more about just the idea that the mechanic. Maybe it's what it isn't. Maybe it's the idea that the primary mechanics aren't reflex based, aren't action based, aren't arcadey in their nature. Maybe that's aren't strategic. Sort of a strategy based thing. I think that um,
It's
you
about
know,
the part of your brain that's being worked out.
right, right. I think that's a big part of it. Let me hit you with some examples. You
Okay.
threatened to do this
Yeah,
to
I know,
me.
and I have one for you,
Mhm.
but you go first.
Okay, we'll trade some off. Professor Layton, is the narrative element there strong enough to? Is this a puzzle game or an adventure game?
So, Professor Layton, if you're unfamiliar with those games, similar to Puzzle Agent, is they're these very charming and fun. Uh, I believe they started coming out for the DS, but now you can play them on your phone. They are these games where uh, you explore. There's some sort of narrative or mystery, and essentially you go through like this town or a series of little set pieces. Then you click on or tap on something since it's a DS or phone game, and instead of getting a in-world puzzle that's directly related to what you're seeing, it throws you kind of a game book puzzle where,
Yeah,
like, for example, it will give you like the classic, like, all right, you have to get everything across the river. There's a raft that only has two spots. There's a wolf, a sheep, and a bale of hay or whatever, and you can't have the wolf with the sheep, and you can't have the sheep with the hay. Move it across or whatever that
I'm
would be.
allergic to wolves. I
Yeah,
can't be
yeah,
on that
yeah.
boat.
Um, and so I think that the puzzles in an adventure game have to be like that. The puzzles serve the narrative, and the puzzles in Professor Layton do not serve, like, I think
Ah,
Professor Layton is a puzzle game with light adventure elements, and that the narrative in it is just a little bit of charming, extremely charming and fun, like binding agent to
hmm.
move you from classic puzzle to classic puzzle.
I like this idea, the notion that the mechanics serve the narrative rather than a narrative has been slapped onto some mechanics. I think
Yeah.
that that's a good distinction. I feel like adventure games tend to be the former there. The idea that's like we can come up with this awesome premise for arcade shooter and then built a story to justify why you're running around doing twin stick stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I like that a lot. So sorry,
I
Professor Layton, get bent.
I've got one for you.
Okay.
So before we started recording the podcast, I said to Jess that I'm gonna go through. I classify everything in my Steam library under genre. Like after I buy it, I
Nerd. I'm sorry.
oh, you've got something in your throat. So it makes it easier to find it, Jess. I've had this Steam library since 2004. There's
I
a
only
lot
have
of
one game in
games
my
in
Steam
there.
library, and it's Half
Half-Life
Life 2.
2. Yeah.
And I have
Anyway.
and weirdly, I have it under point and click adventures.
So
Go ahead.
so okay, under adventure, I have Escape Simulator, which
This was on
is
my list to ask you.
which is now, but kind of, I think I kind of gave the game away off of what I said about Professor Layton. Escape Simulator is a escape room game. Would you call that an adventure game? I think I already answered this with the Professor Layton
I
thing.
think that's an easy no. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a no.
there's not really an attempt at a narrative, right? It's
No,
just a
there's no
series of
narrative.
disconnected levels you can play in
Yeah.
whatever order once they're unlocked. And
Well, where the
yeah, I
fuck
mean,
else am I supposed to put it in my Steam genres, Jess? Am I supposed to put it under arcade,
I think you put and
FPS?
I think you put under social experience simulators.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
uh I'll I'll do that. All right, very good.
yeah. It's technically a Jackbox. A lot of people don't realize that it's just a Jackbox
Oh,
game.
Jackbox.
Not bad
Yeah,
Jackbox, but
Jackbox. Are those adventure games?
yes, every one of them. Weirdly,
Wow. You don't know
Zeeple
Jack?
especially. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
Zeeple Dome is
yeah,
an adventure game.
Zeeple Dome's an adventure game. I mean, I'll stand by that.
I
Bomb
have a
Core.
friend that got really into Zeeple Dome.
Is this friend okay? Wow. Well, Ben, I had that one on my list too. I think that's an easy no. Yeah,
All right.
complete lack of narrative. It's just, yeah, it's just a puzzle. Let me hit you with one.
Okay.
Now, I think this one's going to cook your noodle.
All right.
Is Codename Iceman an adventure game, or is it a submarine simulator with light adventure elements?
Ooh.
I'm just thinking about the amount of time you spend doing
Yeah.
both of these things.
All right. So, Codename Iceman, if you have not played it, which is baffling to me, it's a classic. Codename Iceman. In Codename Iceman, you do like the game starts, you're on Tahiti, you're on vacation, you dance a little bit, you have sex with a
Make a
woman you
little
meet,
love.
and then
My.
you fly to the Pentagon, get your orders, fly to California, get into a submarine, and then you're in a submarine doing a
Yeah.
simulation
For the next 6 to
for
7 hours.
I think it has to be an adventure game because it has enough of an adventure game in it.
Mhm.
Like
It begins and ends with an adventure
this
game.
is in well, it ends it with a arcade sequence which you can
That's
skip.
true.
But this is like, this is the sort of thing that uh what like that the like back once upon a time there was the like USDA and they would like classify if something was food or not. Fortunately, we don't have such a foolish thing like that, or we're in the process of dismantling it.
Mm.
And this is like one of those things where it's like this Codename Iceman might be an adventure game, but you might spell it with a couple of the wrong letters so you don't get sued by
Like
the federal government
it's like an
for
avdenture game.
yeah, it's an
Or is it
ad wait, how did you say that?
avdenture.
Yeah.
Avdenture game.
like like they have to put on the box contains 51% adventure game elements. Uh
Not a sustainable source of adventure game.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's a adventure game, but like because
It's in like that capstone category. It's like Beverly Hillbillies. It's like it's doing adventure game stuff with arcade stuff. It's technically an adventure game in all the ways that count,
there's
but it's doing
so
it so cool.
much adventure game stuff in it. It's
Yeah.
just that there's also a lot of fucking
Mhm.
bullshit.
Well, I'm looking at the box right now,
Yeah, what does the
and
box say?
it says a 3D animated adventure game.
All right, well there it is. It says it on the box, the end.
Well, Ben, let me hit you with this one. Is hit indie sensation StairQuest an adventure game?
This is I mean, no, I don't think it's an adventure game.
You can go to hell, Ben.
You think it's an adventure game?
No, it's not an adventure.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an adventure game either. I've joked it's a walking simulator because all you do
Yeah.
is walk.
Right.
But I mean, it's an arcade game, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's an
about
arcade game.
reflexes.
Yeah.
It's about learning patterns.
Yeah.
It's about, I mean, it's absolutely an arcade game masquerading as an adventure game. Yeah, I think that one's an easy one. Let's maybe loop back around to where we started.
Mhm.
What kicked this all off? What
Oh, it's an
inspired
email.
Kevin's email
Oh, was Papers, Please.
was Papers, Please. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we both, when this came up a few episodes ago, we both kind of definitively said no.
Mhm.
Papers, Please is a game I love dearly. It's a game
Great
I've written
game.
about at length.
Mhm.
Um, why did we both pretty definitively come down on the no end of this?
Okay.
Where is it not an adventure game by the kind of standards we've just spoken about?
Because it's not a puzzle game.
Okay, it's not a puzzle game.
Like
I mean,
like and it's neither a puzzle game nor a game that doesn't have puzzles and is strictly narrative.
yeah, but I mean, a lot of games have narrative elements out there. But yeah, the question is are the mechanics there to serve that narrative, or is the narrative something that is there to enhance your experience playing through this core mechanic at the heart of the game? And I
Mhm.
feel like in adventure games, yeah, it tends to be that the narrative is what's driving this whole train, and the mechanics are just a way for you to experience more of that narrative.
All right. Well, we solved it. We came up exactly. We answered that question comprehensively.
Yes, and we've given you a great list, irrefutable, of games that are and aren't adventure games.
Yeah. Do you have any last thoughts before I close the door on this discussion forever?
I guess I would just say we nailed it.
Fabulous. I agree. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Quest, the Adventure Game Podcast. If you'd like to send us a email, you can do so at questquestpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please send us a review, rate and review us. A 5-star review helps other people find this podcast program. And be sure to join us every week, and be sure to join us next week when we discuss the adventure game version of Papers, Please. Bye.